A project that we started working on a very long time ago was doubling up the town hall. And guess what? Today is a very exciting day because we are going to continue working on that project. First things first though, I know this has been bothering people for a very long time, and it's been something that I've been meaning to do for a long time, and it's just sort of slipped my mind. But today in this video, we're going to be making the supports for the crane all yellow rather than light gray. It's a very satisfying day. Finally, we're going to do that. I'm sorry. I did it, and it took me 4 minutes. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I procrastinate about things, but so long! Light gray supports, and also I craned out the town hall. So this is the Town Hall Modular building, a really cool modular building that we've had in our collection for quite some time. We bought it brand new, sealed and boxed. Man, that was so cool back in the day. It was like a big retirement purchase, and we were like, yes, so awesome. We want to expand it by making it a double corner, just because we think Town Hall deserves to be a double corner. So no longer is it going to be 32 by 32 studs, but it's actually going to be 64 by 32 studs. And about a year ago at this point, we came up with our prototype, and our prototype uses a bunch of random pieces and random colors. Like you can see some cheese slopes in there that are orange and green windows, tan windows. There's like the white modified bricks there, just all sorts of random pieces to create this half base plate sort of modular building with the nice angle. And I think that's just going to match up perfectly with Town Hall. But we had to order enough pieces to make 2 of these essentially, and it's going to be a mirror of each other so that we have a double corner Town Hall. Now I will say right off the hop, we do not plan on adding an interior to this building because when you see it, you can't even see the interior. So sometimes, although interiors are really cool, they just seem to be like a waste of parts and a waste of time. So at this particular point, we're not going to add an interior. And we don't want to modify this building. This is so nostalgic. This is such a valuable modular building. We don't want to rip apart the walls. I don't want to blast a hole in the wall. I just want to keep this set as original as we possibly can. So we're not going to connect them and rebuild our entire town hall. So for that reason, we're just going to build 2 little half base plate modular buildings like this here that go on the side of this town hall. I just don't have it in me to rip this building apart, and I'm sure most of you can understand that. So we don't use digital design or anything. We just came up with this corner here, and we ordered the parts necessary to make the part swaps for that one, and also the parts to build another one. So we've got all of our parts that we ordered. Hopefully we have enough parts to do what we wanted to achieve today. But we've got them all separated by part type. We got brick, plate, all the smaller oddity stuff here, cheese slopes, jumpers, 1x2 rail plates, 1x2s, all the modified 1x1s, a bunch of windows. So we ordered a whack of windows for this project because there's a lot of windows in this set. And then all our tiles, modified bricks with the forward-facing studs, 1x1 bricks and cylinders, and just all the stuff there. So we're going to use all of these parts to create 2 little half modular buildings, turning the town hall, which is just a beauty, into a double corner. The ground floor is now complete. So of course we've got our original entrance here, pretty grand entrance with the pillars on either side, the croissants and that like printed shield piece above, along with some skeleton legs. Looks pretty sweet. So that's the original module there. You can see there's not very many interior details, but now we have our extension on the left. There we go. It's got the same details, such as the small 1x3 arches along the foundation. Then we built this angle here using some of the modified bricks with the forward-facing studs and the cheese slopes, and also some of those modified bricks just to continue that angle, and decided to stick with the 1x1 planters as that matches the original design. And then there's a row of white and the same cheese slope design underneath the windows, and you can see this is held in place by snot bricks there. And then the windows, so you got some of the taller ones on the bottom and the shorter ones on top. The decorations have been carried over with the wheel wells and also the 1x2 jumpers with the tile on top. And then we have some of these textured bricks above the rail plate and the decorative sort of like end caps on those, I guess. And this is a pretty neat angle right here. So you have an angled portion, and that is tiled underneath using triangular tiles. And that just matches up perfectly with the town hall feel. Carried that over. It was a bit tricky getting the math, just the math of like the cylinders. So we've got 2 cylinders instead of single cylinders, which is all right because we actually carry that over on the side of the building. So it's like 2 cylinders and then 4 studs of texture, 2 cylinders, 4 studs of texture all the way to the end. So we were able to get the math of that figured out perfectly. And as you can see, we've got both extensions made now, and all the color swaps have been made to our prototype, and we constructed one from scratch. So yeah, that looks pretty sweet. Also, because this is a corner, we had to make sure that our extensions went right to the back of the base plate. So classically, this set here would have 4 studs of breathing room on the back of the base plate, but now we want it to sit in a street and the other buildings behind it should go butt up against the building. So we built it right to the back, and I forgot to feature this. It's just held in place by a jumper, and then the top floor sort of secures it, but it is blended in using the modified bricks with the forward-facing studs and the cheese slopes. So that's how we were able to fill the gap there. And then on the top section, we did the same thing, but it uses the modified bricks and tiles. So when I place that in there, those elements just sort of work together to fill in the gap between the wall and the window panel. Now, Mr. Mayor here, he might want there to be an interior in these builds eventually, but once again, the walls are not like open. So there's not really a way to access these like sections of the building at this particular point. So we've got to think about that. I know we had to use additional elements to build the dark orange walls, and we could have just used these elements technically if we ripped it apart, but there's just something about it. I just don't feel right ripping this building apart. But this is the second floor here. And it, once again, just sort of copies cheese slopes everywhere on the ground, sorry. We're still making some improvements. For example, we're adding the cheese slopes above the windows so that they match the windows here in the original model. But you can see the window design with the curved slopes underneath, which are like planters. And then we have the flowers, so that's carried over. Then we have the angled window once again there. This is just a panel that's held in place by a jumper, and it's blended in using the modified bricks with the forward-facing studs. And those are spaced out, so it's 1 brick, 2 plates, 1 brick, 2 plates, 1 brick, just so we can get those studs aligned with the cheese slopes. And this is all interlocked now, and it's all consistent colors. And you can see the modified plates there that we used on the bottom, like the giant wedge plates, and it's all held together with the light gray plate, and the floor is actually white. It is sort of an odd dimension, that's why there's a 1x plate running through the entire thing there. But yeah, that's our extension for the second floor. Maybe eventually we'll add details, but I think at that point, if we're going to do that, then I have to rip apart the actual town hall modular building. And when we do that, we would free up a bunch of the dark orange brick, but I really don't mind having dark orange brick in our inventory, so it's not the end of the world that we ordered that, because we could create other dark orange buildings. It's a really fun color to use. They used it in the corner garage and also in the town hall. But yeah, that's the design for the second floor there. Everything is carried over and consistent with the spacing and design. See, we didn't add those cheese slopes to the top of the windows on the ground floor either. Not really necessary, but it is a nice added touch. Once again, no interior details, so it doesn't really matter, but we may as well do it. Now, one thing that we are considering doing just to merge these floors together is actually just modifying the tile work on each floor when it's actually placed in the city. So for example, when this is assembled like so, we can just like take out some of these tiles and then merge it together. So use like a 2x4 tile there and it'll hold it together and make sure it's all aligned. However, with that said, in the base, we did add the 1x4 Technic bricks, so we will be able to pin all the modules together. Okay, second floor looking pretty good. Got some height now. As we continue to build upward, we are going to notice that gap, but as mentioned, there are ways to try and mitigate that effect. So we'll experiment with that when we place this in the city. The design of the third floor is a little bit different. You can see it uses the 1x4 arches over the windows rather than those white wheel wells. But we've kept that consistent with our expansion, of course. And then it has the cheese slopes in front of the windows as well, and also the inverted slopes. So it goes like inverted slopes with cylinders in between the tiles, and then it's got some of the palisade bricks between the windows to give it a nice texture, and then the 1x4 arches framing those windows. So a lot of the window actually isn't visible. Like when you see how much window there is in the inside and how much of it is actually covered up by the arches and the supports for those arches, but it is what it is. I think it looks pretty sweet and matches that original design. Also has those like garage door track elements above the windows, those 1x2 bricks. Inverted slopes on top of the window there, and this little module has the planter built into it. And it's blended in with the cheese slopes. So yeah, that works out nicely. And that sort of matches up with the original, and of course it's the same on this side here. There is one thing that bothers me. You can see here there's a 1x1 modified brick with a forward-facing stud in the circular tile there, and then here it's a 1x2. So technically this should be a 1x2, but because the floors aren't merged, it's two 1x1s. So we have two of those, which doesn't look consistent with the model. So I think when we place this, I'm going to remove both of those and merge it there and just pop in my own made up version of that, which is a 1x2 brick, which is Technic, and has the pin inside. So then I can just swap that up and make it look consistent. And it's going to be another point of attachment between the original and our expansions. Now I love this roof design. It is just so cool. There's more than what meets the eye with it, that's for sure. Look at that. There's a really nice technique on either side. Never mind the clock tower and the lettering. So cool. Yeah, I love that. But this right here is just so interesting. You can see the arches down there and these like wide rail plates on the top. And when I continue deconstructing this, you'll see the design, which uses the 1x2 jumpers. Also these like modified arches, like the small ones, window elements. And in behind the window element is like the modified 2x2 plate. And those arches, and that's the way, or slopes, sorry, and that's the way that it all gets held together. So this is a really neat design. You put the window in there, and then you put, holy, this in behind like that, and this adapts into that black modified plate, like that. And it just is a really cool design. The issue is this part right here. This part only comes in 8 long. This isn't like your standard 1x modified plate, right? It's not this one that comes in 1x2s. It's this one here that comes in 1x8. And because of that, it's throwing a bit of the math off for our other sections, which are also currently constructed. So the really fun decoration there is separated by 2x2 inverted slopes. So you can see it's 2 studs of decoration, then the inverted slope, and it carries that pattern over until the very end. And on the very end, it's just a single because it's the end of the building. So that's a 1x2 inverted slope there. So I figured on our roof panels, we'd have to start it with a 1x2 so that we can that consistent pattern. So it looks like it's 2 studs. But then the problem is we ran out of space here for the math. So now it goes the pattern, or like the interesting little mini build, a 1x2 inverted slope, then the little mini build again, and then another 1x2 on the end. There's not an additional stud there to make this 2 studs. So changing that from a 1x2 to a 2x2 inverted slope, which is unfortunate. Also, you'll see that this right here is only 7 studs. So there's no way for me to install this modified rail plate that only comes in this size and make it look good. So I had to make a compromise. Unfortunately, the rail plate couldn't be there. I just used 2x light gray tile, so it doesn't have that little lip like the original, but then I was able to carry over the dark gray tile, so that looks consistent. And the corner is actually really cool. I was playing around with those like really weird looking bricks, but then I was like, yeah, it's not really working out. It's not coming far enough off the build. These guys right here, they actually come in 2 different sizes, but it just wasn't working. I didn't think that this face right here provided enough texture, and it didn't come out far enough to fill that gap, because we've got that interesting wedge plate underneath, and there's just no texture to it. It just didn't look that good. So I decided to stack some of these like interesting bricks with the 2 studs that are forward facing, and I put cheese slopes on them, and then I just put 2 stacks of those like up against our inverted slope on either side, and then I put a tower of 2 1x1 bricks in behind that, and it just sort of filled that corner in pretty nicely. And then on this side, luckily, I was able to work out that consistent design that's the same as the front of the town hall. So it's 1, and then the decoration 2, decoration 2, decoration 2, decoration 2, decoration 1. So that worked out, but unfortunately when you count the studs from this point to this point, it still doesn't work out with the math of the rail plates. So with the design that we came up with, unfortunately there's no way to have the roof be 100% consistent with the original model, which is all right because when you group these together, you can barely tell that it's not consistent. As the builder, I know it's not consistent, and as the viewer, after me telling you, you know it's not consistent, but it is what it is. I think it all works out quite nicely. And I don't want to try and make it look consistent by modifying the original roof. Once again, I just don't want to destroy this. I feel like it's too nostalgic, too cool to just start ripping all this apart to try and get the math to work for our roof. I just don't have it in me, folks. So there we have our new and improved double town hall. I think everything looks very consistent with the original model. Pretty happy with the outcome of it. We could expand the clock tower, and I could add miniature clock towers on either side, but I think that might be a little bit too extra. It looks huge on the table here, but I think once we actually place it in the LEGO City setting, it's gonna look incredible. I love this. This has been something that I've been meaning to do for probably like, I don't know, 4 years? Long time, like a really long time. A few more modifications actually. So each module is now held together by 6 Technic pins, 3 in the front, 3 in the back, 12 total. The tiles go between the floors now, both in the front and the back with 2x4 tiles on all 3 floors. Also replaced the 1x1s with the 1x2, so that's another point of attachment there. Modified the roof by adding a light gray plate right there, and then I did a row of 2x4 tiles. There used to be a dark gray tile there, just because that was the roof border. This will change that up and add another solid point of attachment for the roof panel, so I can move this as one unit now. Also added some rooftop ventilation and improved this antenna. And with those modifications, makes it easier to transport and less trips to place in the city as well. It's a pretty solid unit actually. Feels like it's built as one, so that's awesome. I think in order to place this Goliath of a build here, we've got to move these. Did you hear my knees crack there? Getting old. Move these ones. I don't know if this alternate model here is going to stay in the city or not. This is the University alt build, which is on the back of this. I always said that on the back of this will be a continuation of the Venetian style houses because the half base plate modules that we have that are going to go behind this now actually look sort of Venetian style. So we'll see. Holy. There we go. Slide it forward. Put the tree back. And put these little half base plate modules that used to be on either side of Town Hall in the old layout back here. And I guess leave a full base plate between them, open for the taking. And the university, I don't know where it's going to go, but either way, what do you think? That's awesome. I can't wait to see it from over there. There we go, everybody. That looks awesome. Wow. It's big. It is just like a monster. We've been meaning to do this for so long. And now we finally did it. Look at that. Town Hall is just a sight to be seen here in the downtown core. How cool is that? Wow. I'm pretty happy. Like, that's just crazy. It looks so cool. Right on. Everybody, thank you so much for coming on by. Remember to have yourselves a great day, and we'll see you again in the near future. Bye for now. That's awesome.